Welcome to Apologetics and Prophecy, the official podcast of Calvary Solid Ground, a remnant church in Orangevale, California. I am Pastor Jed, and I will be your host as we bring you Bible studies and updates put through an apologetical and biblical lens to see just how close we are to the return of our Lord. Thank you for joining us today. Maranatha, everyone. So glad that you could join us for this Friday edition of Apologetics and Prophecy, where we are going to dive into the news. And of course, this is our prophecy update that we do every week, where we like to look into the news. But before we share some scriptures of the why we do this, I just have a couple news stories that are hot off the press that are actually good news. We actually have some good news to start off with. And the first one that happened just this morning on my way over here to the office to record this, and that is Supreme Court rules in favor of January 6th Capitol riot participant who challenged obstruction conviction. So we have many people that we are ministering to that are Christians that were involved in the J6 thing and that are in prison for a god-awful amount of time. And they've been waiting for this to happen so that hopefully many of them will have their, they'll have to reduce their charges. They'll be able to go back and appeal. And so we're praying and hoping that this will set some of the prisoners free that are obviously political prisoners. We've been following this. And so even though we're going to see today that the Supreme Court has been letting us down, this one this morning it's a good day. It's a good day. And I was praising the Lord this morning for it. And of course, if you would have, if you wasted an hour of your time last night that you'll never be able to get back, bothering to watch the debate, you know, the miserable state that our country is in. But the headlines before the night was over were like this. I don't know if you've seen these headlights about Biden. Boy, I tell you, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But both sides didn't look very good. Trump had some very unique opportunities to stand up for Israel and to stand up for the J6ers, and he kind of beat around the bush on that. I was extremely disappointed. And of course, the whole thing on abortion right now, we are extreme conservative life at conception Christians, and we understand that that's not Trump. He is just not. He's against late-term abortion, but he's not for early-stage abortion, and that's disappointing. But the extreme on the other side, I mean, what do you get? You know, our country's in a mess, and we need to pray. And so that's why we're going to do prophecy stories today from the news. But before we do that, let's remind ourselves of a few questions of the why. Why do we do this? And of course, the first one comes from John 3:19 through 21. We always like to read John 3:16, but starting in 19, and this is the condemnation that light has come into the world. Light, illumination, knowledge of the sin of man and the grace of God. And men loved darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. For everyone practicing evil hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed. But he who does the truth comes to the light, that his deeds may be clearly seen, that they have been done in God. So we are to use the truth to expose the evil deeds of man, to show them that they are sinners and they need a savior. And that includes the anti-God globalist agenda that is going to bring about the wrath of God upon a world that has rejected the gospel. And so it's the condemnation of the world is already there. Because why? Because they have rejected the truth that has been exposed to them. So we show these stories to just continue to remind us of the evil heart of man and the judgment and wrath and righteous wrath of God that is coming upon a world that has rejected the gospel. And also we're told in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 8 through 13. It says, for you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness, righteousness, and truth, finding out what is acceptable to the Lord, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. For it is shameful even to speak of those things that are done by them in secret. But all things are exposed and made manifest by the light. For whatever makes manifest is the light. How are we supposed to not have fellowship with darkness if we don't know what it is that we're not supposed to have fellowship with? We are to expose these things. We are to put them out in the open and show people that this is the evil heart of humanity that is going against God and bringing in very quickly the wrath of God after the rapture of the church in the tribulation period that's coming. And so we are to expose evil. That's what the church's job is. And of course, Ezekiel 33 tells us in verses 6 and 7, but if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet, and the people are not warned, and the sword comes and takes away any person from among them, he has taken away his iniquity, but his blood I will require at the watchman's hand. So you, son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel. Therefore you shall hear a word from my mouth and warn them for me. So Ezekiel was a watchman to Israel, and this principle that if we do not blow the trumpet, if we do not announce to the world that wrath is coming, if we don't let people that they can escape from the wrath to come, do you know that their blood is upon our heads? Oh, we don't lose our salvation. This isn't a salvation issue, but it is a reward issue. And God wants us, you and I that are living in these last days, to be aware of the times that we're living in, expose the evil for what it is, and warn people from the wrath to come. That is your job as a Christian in 2024. So that's why we do these things. So you're aware of what's going on, because the mainstream media is not going to tell you, hey, there's an evil globalist plan that's trying to take away all the freedoms of the world to set up a one world government so everybody will worship Satan. They're not going to tell you that. But we will do the best that we can. I was overloaded with stories this week, and I had to not deal with all of them. But the first one, of course, is the disappointment from the Supreme Court that we had this week. And that's this story right here. Supreme Court dismisses case against Biden administration over big tech collusion. So this is a big story, you guys, and this is really disappointing. It says, in a landmark decision on Wednesday, the Supreme Court dismissed a challenge accusing the Biden administration of colluding with big tech companies to censor social media posts deemed misinformation about COVID-19 and other topics. The plaintiffs argued that the actions violated the First Amendment by suppressing dissenting views, including those related to the pandemic and the 2020 election. And you and I know this, right? How many of my posts have been taken down? How many of my videos have been removed from YouTube? How many of my, if you just say one thing about the election in 2020, you're deemed a conspiracy theory and canceled and shadow banned and shut up. It's happened, right? And the government is responsible for tying the hands of social media companies to do this. It's their fault. And this case, it's just incredible. But the 6-3 ruling included that the plaintiffs in Mercy versus Missouri case, led by the attorney generals of Louisiana and Missouri, lacked standing to bring the case. And of course, Justice Alito, Clarence Thomas, and Neil Gorsuch dissented strongly, warning the country may come to regret the majorities. We already regret it. We're not going to come and regret it. 2020 was a horror show. They silenced people that had the truth about certain medical treatments that would have saved lots of lives. And that's why they say Justice Amy Coney Barrett, writing for the majority, clarified that the plaintiffs failed to demonstrate a substantial risk of imminent harm that could be directly linked to the government's action. And so we're not even going to get into this story. You know as well as I do the elephant in the room. The thing that nobody wants to talk about, the thing that happened and forced by the government and then propagated through social media by the behoost of the government that caused excess mortality, as we will say. We know what all that is. And so immediate harm, people are in harm like we've never seen in the history of the planet because of their dark globalist Luciferian agenda to control information. But we understand this all has to be. I mean, it all has to be. It is just the way of the things are going. We'll have good news here and there. You know, it's like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. We'll take the 1 step back. but they've already gone forward one step. And so all of the Antichrist kingdom, its structure, its ability to do things is being put in place. And then the other one, this is another sad one. Supreme Court turns away COVID-19 vaccine appeal. This was another big disappointment. It says judge denied petitions from a nonprofit funded by Robert F. Kennedy. Now, I don't agree with Robert F. Kennedy. He's a liberal Democrat, but he is a staunch anti-vaxxer from before COVID. And so this doesn't surprise me that he would bring this case, but it's really bad. The U.S. Supreme Court justices on June 24th rejected appeals brought over COVID-19 vaccines by Children's Health Defense, a nonprofit funded by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and an independent candidate running for president. The nation's top court rejected an appeal seeking to overturn lower court rulings that found the CHD and its members lacked standing to sue the Food and Drug Administration over its emergency authorization of COVID-19 vaccines for minors. So we see that. And of course, It says this guy, Robert Barnes, one of the attorneys, said, disappointing that the courts are closed to FDA fraud harming millions of Americans. Robert Barnes, an attorney representing CHD in the FDA case, told the Epoch Times in an email. He called for Congress to pass reforms. Well, don't hold your breath. They're just waiting for the next emergency so they can fire up the printing presses again and print more money. That's all it was for them. It was an opportunity. You have to understand, crisis to our Congress and its establishment is an opportunity to get rich. And that's exactly what many people did with this whole joke that the Supreme Court failed again on our thing. So, but of course, we know what month it is. And so it shouldn't surprise us that we have a slew of horrible news of our culture continuing to turn its back on God. And here's this one. California state approves ban requiring schools to notify parents of child's pronoun change. Now, this is something that which was big in the news last year, and many local school districts with conservative school board members had passed rules saying that parents had to teachers had to tell their parents. They couldn't lie to their parents about, about a kid's pronoun change. They decided to be another gender in school. And of course, the governor and all these leftists, they got all crazy and insane. And now they're passing this law that basically makes it illegal for you to tell the truth to a teacher. And like I said, I wonder, I know many people that say they are Christians and that they are teachers in the largest school district in the nation. You would think there was at least a few, right? Are they going to actually follow along with this? I would hope that they would just quietly ignore the law and continue to tell the truth to parents. But will they? That's what I mean. Are they going to go along with this because they don't want to lose their jobs? And unfortunately, last year we saw one teacher and she won her case and won $800,000. But this is a time for Christians to stand up. They're getting away with this madness because nobody is standing up and saying, no, you can't do this. It is not right for us to tell teachers to lie. There's no moral standard in the world that says that that's okay. But yet that's what they're doing. And I got this little chart from California Family Council, and I just want to kind of go through it with you. It's the transgender conveyor belt. As you see, 1, schools teach children to question their gender. 2, teachers affirm a child's new gender identity, and hide it from parents. 3, counselors support a new gender identity. 4, parents must go along or risk losing custody. That was a law that was passed last year. 5, foster parents must support a gender transition. That means if you're a Christian, you can't foster kids. Insurance companies must pay for a gender transition. They've already done that. 7, doctors must perform a gender transition. Children's pay the price. And I'm telling you, they pay the price. It's a horror story of what we've done to our children. It's part of the depopulation, and we don't want to get kicked off the channel, but you know what I mean. This is a hardcore agenda that is happening, and it is not good at all. But anyway, what's our, this one's even worse. A lot of people don't know about this, but experts warn proposed amendment to California's constitution could legalize polygamy and child marriage. And that's the ACA 5. California's legislator has proposed an amendment to the state constitution that critics charge could open the door to polygamy, incestuous relationships, and child marriage. Senator Scott Wiener and Assemblyman Even Low, both Democrats, proposed Assembly Constitutional Amendment 5 last week in what they are calling an attempt to enshrine same-sex marriage into California law. The amendment would repeal language in the state constitution that defines marriage as between one man and one woman. That was Prop 8 that won with 54% of the vote when it went into law. Of course, it was shot down despite the 2015 Supreme Court decision that legalized same-sex marriage nationally. LGBTQ advocates in multiple states are seeking ways to protect homosexual marriage in case the 2015 decision were overturned. But experts have pointed out that the amendment's wording could legalize controversial relationships, including those between more than two people, genetically relative individuals, or even minors. The California Family Council held a press conference on the steps of the California State Capitol shortly after ACA 5 was announced. And of course, it goes on, but it's true. The slippery slope. In 2015, I was a staunch person blowing the trumpet and telling them that this is only the beginning. Once you open the door, what's going to stop polygamy from having their constitutional rights? What about, they've already got the colors in the pride flag that say that minor attracted individuals are gender identity. And so what do? That's the slippery slope that's going down. And it all leads to this next. I hate to show you this video. I really do. But this is where our culture, you take God out of the culture, you let children do whatever they want, you let sin run rapid in the culture and society. This is what you're going to get.
Free Palestine, 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 free Palestine.
My goodness. Can you even believe that is accepted as a norm in our culture? That's something to be celebrated, something to be flaunted around and tell people, look, this person's free to be whatever they want to be. It's just showing you that the wrath of God is coming. And it's very interesting because this next story is Biden's HHS assistant secretary, and I won't use his wanting to use his name as Levine, Mr. Levine, pressured WPATH to eliminate age guidelines for child sex changes. Now, I think they should just put a little line in their little acronym to make the truth about it. Wrath, God's wrath that's coming upon people like this for thinking that it's okay to chop up children. And so that's exactly what we see. It says, an exhibit filed in the case of Boe versus Marshall has revealed that Biden's trans diversity hire, Mr. Levine, who serves as the Assistant Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, pressured the World Professional Association of Transgender Health, that's the WPATH, which should be WRATH, because that's the reality, to remove guidelines on age limits for sex change drugs and surgeries. So it goes on to talk about, it wasn't political. This was all something that and of course, a freak like that in a place of authority is going to push. Why can't everybody be like this, but like me, like that video we just watched, right? So they reduced the standards, and notice this last paragraph. It says the Standards of Care 8 did remove age guidance for medical sex changes, which shocked many. The announcement of the new standards was made at their annual conference held in Montreal in 2022. So 2 years ago, we're just finding out now, right? That conference also held a breakout session with medical professions who work on to transition what they called littles. Means little kids. They can't even say infants or children. These people are sick, demented, and demonic. And that's what's happening in the world. And you saw the product in the video. Oh, it doesn't get any better, folks. I'm sorry to say. But this one here, Happy Pride Month. Mother with family says she was kicked off United flight in San Francisco for misgendering flight attendant with wrong pronouns. Oh boy, oh boy. A woman traveling with her 16-month-old son and her 75-year-old mother said in videos posted Wednesday that she and her family were kicked off a United flight because she misgendered the flight attendant. One of the videos showed the woman speaking with the United representative who confirmed the woman was booted by the captain for misgendering and other alleged comments. I mean, some of these people, you can't even tell what gender they are anymore. And you're going to, but they don't wear a name tag. If it looks like a duck, you're going to call it a duck, right? I mean, I don't even know some of these freaks that are running around out there. But, we don't want to go along. I mean, this is where the world is headed, that if you disagree with their sick, perverted plans, they're not going to be able to fly. And it's strange because we know at one point people aren't going to be able to buy and sell if they don't follow a certain agenda. Where have I heard that before? And what do we see happening? We're blowing the trumpet. We know. And what about this one? Nickelodeon produces drag queen pride promo video for children. Great. I mean, we already knew Nickelodeon was off the charts anyway. They play some god-awful cartoons that I would never let a kid watch, regardless of the sexual stuff. And so it shouldn't surprise us, right? Children's entertainment network Nickelodeon has received backlash after sharing a promotional video of a drag queen singing a song exposing kids to pride. The video shows the drag queen named Nina West singing about the different colors in the pride flag and who they represent, including transgender and queer people of color. Apparently, yellow is sunlight and green is nature. And I have to play this next video for you. It's about a minute long and it's a commercial. And it used to be a safe area. When we were growing up, Play School and Legos, they were just the generic things that kids played with. Well, not anymore. Hate to show it to you. I don't know, but I'm not too happy after watching that. And did you notice that it wasn't just the trans people, but did you notice they were dressed up like animals? That was the furry thing. I'm telling you, it just like Jonathan Keller was saying about the change of the Constitution about marriage opens the door to every disgusting, intimate perversion that will come out of the heart of man. And we already see it happening to kids, and it's really bad, really bad. And this story is probably another one you don't want to hear, but we're sorry. We're moving along. Rosie O'Donnell raves about non-binary 10-year-old daughter saying gender is infinite. Now, we shouldn't expect anything more from Rosie O'Donnell. And I thought she was supposed to move after 2016 election to Canada. And of course, I guess she's waiting till the next election to do that, but don't hold your breath. They always say what they don't mean. But anyway, Rosie O'Donnell raved in a recent interview about her 10-year-old daughter, telling her gender is infinite, adding, when your child tells you who they are, believe them. O'Donnell told NBC Chicago's Matt Rodriguez that her daughter Clay named her daughter Clay, so that should tell you everything, right? Told her gender is infinite. and that she struggled with remembering to use they, them pronouns when talking to her daughter, adding that she even got a tattoo to remind them. Let her kid have a tattoo. This is disgusting, right? She said to me, they said to me, she prefers they, them. I got a tattoo of it so that I would remember. And every time I say she goes, your tattoo isn't working. I'm like, all right, smarty pants, the Rosie O'Donnell star showed. And of course, she said that gender is infinite. It's just disgusting. And here's another story that's a big no-brainer. Just in, Satanic Temple member found guilty of possession of very disturbing child pornography in Idaho. And so, that doesn't surprise us at all, right? Numerous files of very disturbing child abuse and child pornography were found in Russell's possession during the investigation. Russell is a member of the Idaho's chapter of the Satanic Temple. And of course, you're not saying that, how many times have we said that child pornography, child sacrifice, child abductions are connected to the Satanic Temple? Oh, you're just a conspiracy theory. When we connect it to people and we tell them that this is what's happening, from the Bohemian Gardens all the way up to Clinton, to people in government, that we're called nuts. We're called conspiracy theorists. But the truth always comes out, right? And of course, that shouldn't surprise us at all. And then this is pretty crazy. This is pretty crazy story that broke last week. Yes, there really is a giant inflatable dragon on top of this Empire State Building. I mean, if people, aren't trying to bring in the tribulation period, they sure are fantasizing about it, right? It says, no, it's not just you. There is, in fact, a giant inflatable dragon clutching the Empire State Building's 102 stories above Midtown Manhattan. It's Vogar, the 270-foot, or at least this version, Dragon Queen in the Game of Thrones prequel, House of Dragons, which premiered its second season Sunday night. It's part of an immersive House of Dragons experience from HBO Max and the Empire State Building to promote the show, including a photo op with the famed Iron Throne, among other features. And, I know there are Christians who somehow think that it's okay. I mean, and I'm guilty of watching shows that I probably shouldn't watch, that have some questionable language. But me and my wife sat down and tried to watch Game of Thrones. And we made it through 5 minutes when they started having these Viking sex scenes in the middle of the show, and realized this is not a show for believers to watch. Not only does it promote stuff like dragon worship and the occult, but it also there's orgies and all kinds of disgusting sexual perversion that I draw the line at. And so it shouldn't surprise me that the world is fascinated by dragons, because they're going to worship a dragon real soon. And so, and then what about technology? We got this pretty frightening story that came out this week. Japan scientists make smiling robot with living skin. Oh boy, can they just let this stuff go? No, they can't. It says, Japan scientists have used human cells to develop an equivalent to living skin that can be attached to robotic surfaces to flash a realistic, or if creepy, smile. Why can't they just use rubber or something? Why do they actually have to use human skin? Because it's all part of the transhumanist agenda. They want humans to become cyborgs. They want them to be lifelong, and they actually believe that they could take the thoughts and the soul of man and put it into a machine that can live forever. Because the Antichrist is going to have to, he's going to have to counterfeit Christ and offer the world eternal life. Of course, it's going to be a lie and a deception, but people are going to buy into it and believe it, and many today have. And that's why we shouldn't be surprised to see technology continue to move forward to what we know will come to a head during the tribulation period. And of course, all of our, and we know that they're heading towards this transhumanist future, because the leader of all of it came out just this last week and said so. And of course, Klaus Schwab pushes fourth industrial revolution at WEF's Summer Davos opening. This is Summer Davos, and of course they are in China. That's the bastion of free enterprise and free speech, right? Oh, oops, that's a different country. It says at the WEF's 2024 meeting of the new champions in China, Klaus Schwab praised China's economic policies and urged all stakeholders to use technologies of the fourth industrial revolution in a wise manner, like China, with their social credit score and their mass surveillance and facial recognition and all of that's what Klaus wants, that on a global scale. And that's why they're in China, and that's why they're pushing it. It says World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab kicks off the annual meeting of the New Champions, aka Summer Davos in China, saying that economic growth and a more peaceful future will come from embracing innovation and forcing collaboration. You had to listen to the language, not voluntary collaboration, forcing collaboration. That's what these globalists are going to do. Remember, 2020 was a dry run, and it was the most successful dry run in world history. They are prepared to move forward with the next thing to force collaboration. You know, when they say it, you need to believe it, right? Speaking at the opening plenary alongside the president of Poland, the prime minister of Vietnam, and People's Republic of China premier. Great. Why do we have him anyway? We shouldn't be letting them anywhere in the decisions of a global nature. And it says Schwab regurgitated parts of his speech from last year's meeting, praising China for its economic policies while congratulating everyone participating in the event for representing the most outstanding talents from business, government, academia, and civil society. In his very brief opening statement, the unelected globalist founder of the WEF said that the participants must force collaboration in order to drive economic growth and create a more resilient future. He said, this is his quote. He said, to drive future economic growth, we must embrace innovation and force the collaboration across sectors, regions, nations, and cultures to create a more peaceful, inclusive, sustainable, and resilient future. So you already know, this is what they do. He is a Luciferian globalist leader. We've seen him in his satanic costume, probably fresh out of a, baby sacrifice, maybe. We don't know. That's just, it could be. We're going to say maybe, allegedly, Mr. YouTube, before you go cutting me off. But that's, that's what we see, and we shouldn't surprise anymore. And then what do we got going on with Russia? Russia, of course, is a big player in Bible prophecy. And so as we decrease, we should see them increase. And what do we see? Exactly that. Russia's ambassador outlines plan to overthrow U.S.-led world order. That's what's happening, right? Russia's top diplomat in the United States outlined to Newsweek the contents and core tenets of the Kremlin's bid to reshape the global order in a way that undermines Washington's intentional influence. So there is a war going on, right, between Russia and the United States, and Russia is winning. They are winning the anti-NATO axis of evil war. They are gathering. They're able to fight in Ukraine nonstop. We've been pouring billions of dollars into that country, and to no avail. They have not won back any of the land, and we need to just put a truce there. I don't care how much land that Russia's got in Ukraine. We need to just stop it and then let the sides come to the table. But no, we're just continuing to feed the war machine that comes to a head in the second seal of the second seal in the tribulation period. And then, of course, what about this one? We're always complaining about all the innocent people dying in Palestine, right? And we're stopping weapons from Israel that they're using, and they're saying because it's killing citizens. What about Ukraine and what they're doing to Russian citizens? Are all Russian citizens, are they considered animals? They're not considered people. What about this one? Russia blames U.S. for deadly Crimea beach attack. I don't know if you've heard about this, but it says Russia said that the U.S. bears primary responsibility for what it claimed was a deliberate Ukrainian missile strike against civilians in the Russian-occupied city of Sevastopol. 6 people were killed, including 2 children, in the incident as Russia air defenses attempted to intercept long-range U.S.-made ATACMS missiles, Russian officials and Moscow Ministry of Defense said. The Russian Defense Ministry said that the missiles hit by its air defense systems were armed with cluster munition warheads. Ukrainian officials have not yet commented, but and this is disgusting. They used those every nation in the world has spoken against and not allowed. The Geneva Convention does not allow cluster munitions. But we give them to Ukraine. They use them on Russians that are at the beach celebrating a holiday on a Sunday, going to take the kids to the beach. And they shoot those things at civilians, and nobody's marching in the streets. I don't see anybody stopping traffic. And Russians they're not our friend. They're not good guys. But the point is that, if you're going to complain about, pedestrians or civilians being killed, what about Ukraine? They are not using the weapons we're giving to them in the right manner. And so we definitely need to see a stop there, but it shouldn't surprise us when we see this story. Moscow, Tehran continue to collaborate on big treaty, Russian foreign ministry. So now this is very important because we know and understand in Ezekiel 38 that Russia, Turkey, and Iran are going to be the three big players, along with North Africa and other Muslim nations, to come and invade Israel. And so, but what's drawing this in? We understand that the Bible says that Russia, the main player in all of this, is going to have a hook put in her jaw to draw her in. Well, could it be a treaty? Now, we've said many other things. It could be the goods and spoils, but you have to understand that Russia just made a treaty with North Korea that if either side's attack, that they must, by this treaty, come and help one another. And I believe that's exactly what Russia is about ready to do with Iran. And if Russia does that with Iran and Israel attacks Iran, Russia, hook in the jaw, will have to come in and help. And so this is scary. It says in January, Russia's foreign ministry has said that a new interstate treaty reflecting the unprecedented upswing in Russia-Iran ties was in the final stages of being agreed. So we see it's happening just like we said. And of course, this is very interesting because we know that the collaboration in Ezekiel 38 and 39 are going to be those of the North African region. So what do we see? We see Iran moves into Somalia. Now, Iran's already, they're the ones who support the Houthis. And you have to understand there's a little strait there, and they're wreaking havoc on the ships that are going through to the Suez Canal to save a lot of time going around the Horn of Africa to move goods. But if Somalia is right on the other side of this little tiny inlet that goes in and out of the Red Sea. And if Iran gets control of Somalia, then they can choke off all traffic going in and out of that area. After 6 months of Iran using its Houthi jihadis to impose a blockade near Yemen while defying Biden to do anything about it, the Islamic Global Terror Group is moving on to a state Somali blockade. Current reports suggest that the Houthis, an Iran Shiite terror group, is negotiating to provide weapons to Yemen's Al-Shahab, a Sunni jihadist group allied with Al-Qaeda, to expand Iran's control over shipping. And so, and then it says that they are planning on going into Somalia. And so we see this article tells us that. And then it's interesting, sometimes you have stories that you just got to share because they're almost comical. Most of the world, and including the current administration, have turned its back on Israel. But sometimes unusual friends step up to the side of Israel, and this is a very unusual one. Fetterman meets Netanyahu in Jerusalem. And so if you don't know much about John Fetterman, he was, of course, one of those supposedly elected senators during the 2022 election that does not seem to want to dress properly. He dresses like he's like he's from the hood, and he wears a hood. So it says John Fetterman continued his first trip to Israel on Wednesday by meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We stand with Israel through this. I'm so sorry for what's been done to this nation, but I'm just honored to be here today, Fetterman said in a statement distributed by the Prime Minister's office. The hoodie-wearing first-term U.S. Senator has bucked the progressive left by standing with Israel and supporting its war against Hamas, which began after Hamas carried out a brutal terror attack against Israel on October 7th. Netanyahu welcomed Fetterman, saying Israel has no better friend than Senator John Fetterman. So, hey, they'll take all the friends they can get at this point in time, but, somebody like John Fetterman. And then this is a pretty scary story that was broke on Prophecy Newswatch, and that is U.S. government spies on thousands of Americans' mail every year. Now, that we used to always, you see the stories, the conspiracies, that the mailman's watching you, that the mail service is part of the three-letter government hierarchy that's spying on Americans. And yeah, that's all conspiracy theory. Well, it turns out to not be, right? The U.S. Postal Service has been spying on thousands of Americans' mail every year for a decade. Including letters and parcels, and provided citizens information to police and elements of the national security apparatus. A Washington Post investigation found. So this isn't conspiracynews.com. This is not right-wing. This is Prophecy Newswatch reporting on a Washington Post story. It says tens of thousands of requests have been submitted to the USPS since 2015. Following such requests from the IRS, FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and other agencies, the USPS has shared names, addresses, and other findings from the exteriors of Americans' packages and envelopes without court orders. The surveillance system is known as the Mail Covers Program, ostensibly used to track down suspects or evidence. What about you that gets that, you get Prophecy Watchers magazine? Oh, you're one of those guys. We got to put you on the list. You got that book from Jan Markell. We better make sure that we are on the list. Do you see what I mean? Oh, New American. Oh, we can't have that. So you see that, this is part of the Antichrist system that's going to control everything. It's happening, you guys. Well, I want to leave you with one more story today, and it's actually good news. I started with some good news. I'm actually leaving with some good news, and that's WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange returns to Australia, free man after U.S. legal battle ends. Now, I was one of those guys back as a young Christian, one of those, George Bush voting conservative guys that, thought that, all Christians should be Republicans and, trusted in the establishment and the system. When I heard about what happened with Julian Assange, I thought this guy was an enemy of the state. And but once I started to uncover and start to do my study in prophecy and started to uncover the globalist Luciferian plan and the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderberg and all of this stuff that shows us, and we start to understand, especially what's been uncovered over the last 5-6 years, Julian Assange is just, acting as any reporter would when given information. That's what he did. It was illegal for somebody to hack all of that information, but the people that gave it to him, he has a responsibility as somebody that's part of the press corps. And in his case, he ran a website for information that in the United States, you're supposed to have freedom of press, was just letting us know, hey, this is what your government is doing to you. And it was an eye-opener. And this guy turns out, for those of us who are blowing the trumpet, that are telling you that there is a Luciferian globalist agenda trying to take away your freedoms because they want to actually build a world government and allow somebody inhabited by Satan to come and rule and reign over it. And they think that's a good thing. And that our government is hook, line, and sinker in its establishment and deep state. And he exposed a lot of that and showed to us, hey, it's true. He exposed a lot of stuff that happened with the 2020 election, and a lot of stuff that happened. We're still trying to find out what happened to Seth Rich. Seth Rich, and we wouldn't have known that if it wouldn't have been for WikiLeaks. And thank goodness for the Podesta emails and stuff like that drew the line to these people that are dropping dead all over the place and nobody knows why. But we do, but we just can't say it out loud on YouTube, but we do. And so we're glad that Julian Assange got out, and I hope he keeps up the battle for free speech and exposing the evil in the world. Maybe not everything that he does is great, but we have to understand that we should know about these things, and that's why we do these updates. This guy, and pray for him. As far as I know, him and his wife are not Christians. They need to know the Lord, and maybe somebody will come along in Australia that will tell him that, hey, that the things that you were exposing are all part of something the Bible talks about. And maybe that prophecy that he sees that is happening in the globe, maybe will lead him to a relationship with Jesus Christ. Pray for him. That's what you need to do. You need to pray for him. And so, but we have to understand all of this is going somewhere, and we're going to leave with where that's going as recorded in Daniel chapter 8, verses 23 through 25, that says, in the later time of their kingdom, that would be the one world government that's formed, when the transgressors have reached their fullness. I think we've been reading a lot about these transgressors reaching their fullness, right? A king shall arise, this Antichrist, one world government guy, having fierce features who understand sinister schemes. What have we been reading about with everything from the deep state to the establishment to the Supreme Court? His power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. He'll be inhabited by Satan himself. He shall destroy fearfully and shall prosper and thrive. He shall destroy the mighty and also the holy people. Through his cunning he shall cause deceit to prosper under his rule, all during the tribulation period. And he shall exalt himself in his heart. He shall destroy many in their prosperity. He shall even rise against the prince of princes. But guess what? The last verse here, the last part, perfect. But he shall be broken without human means. So even though all this is going somewhere, even though we see that the system is being put in place, we have to understand that it's only going to be short-lived. As the world continues to reject Jesus Christ, reject the Word of God, reject his standards and truth that are evident in the laws of nature, in our biological laws, and of course the laws that are written in his Word. And the more that we reject it, the more that we see iniquity abound. They are all headed somewhere. And God's finally going to take his hands off of this world and say, go ahead, you can go your own way. And that is when this person will arise out of this united kingdom of the world that thinks they're bringing utopia into the earth. And he will rise and he will take control. And he will bring about the death of many. It's going to be a horror show. And it's coming as God pours out his wrath upon a world that has rejected his son, Jesus Christ. But you don't have to stay for that. You don't have to be around for that 7-year period that is coming. And part of the reason why we're watchmen and watchwomen and those that would promote and tell people about what's going on and letting them know that time is coming, wrapping up very quickly to a head. That there's only one escape, and that is to place your faith and trust in Jesus Christ. So you must do that today. You need to understand that he took upon himself the sin that you deserve to be punished for. That he took it upon himself. Every beating, every stripe, every pain that he suffered, every drop of blood that he spilled was for you, because he loved you so much that he wanted you to be with him in paradise. And so, but we have to place our faith and trust in that work that he did. So just by receiving that, calling out to the Lord, receiving forgiveness for your sins through the finished work of Jesus Christ on the cross, and recognizing that God accepted that sacrifice on your behalf because he rose again from the dead, and that he's still alive now as a living God, and he wants to come and make his home in you, live in and through you, and will come again to rescue us from the wrath that is coming upon this earth. And so for the rest of us, hey, you got a message to share. You've got the good news of the gospel, and you also know where this world's heading. You have an answer for all of these things. And the only answer that is going to satisfy anybody is to place their faith and trust in Jesus Christ. So go out, share the gospel, and be wise about the times that we're living in. And expose these things to your family and friends and people that you talk to. Because that's why we do these things, because we don't want to see any perish, but all come to repentance. That's the heart of God, and it should be the heart of you, brother and sister. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon, and Maranatha. If you have been blessed by this podcast, please subscribe and share to help get the word out in these last days. If you'd like more information or to contact us, please go to calvarysolidground.com. God bless you, and see you next time on Apologetics and Prophecy.